Welcome and good afternoon to everyone for coming to APNM's 8th virtual town hall event. That's pretty amazing. So this one's focused on making plant-based foods more accessible to New Mexicans, a win for both animals and humans. I'm Dorothy Hutchinson. I'm the Chief Development Officer for the organization. I wanted to thank many of you who let us know that this topic is important to you and that you're interested in getting an inside view on how APNM is addressing issues of food access and helping New Mexico communities dealing with food insecurity during the COVID-19 crisis and beyond. With me today also is Isabel Slater. She is APNM's Major Gifts Officer. From here, I'm very excited to introduce you to our wonderful speakers this afternoon. And first, let me introduce you to APNM's Plant-Based Eating Program Manager, Tony Quintana. Prior to joining Animal Protection New Mexico 3 years ago, Tony worked in health education for over 10 years and has managed health promotion programs on a wide variety of topics. Tony has earned his master's degree in health education from the University of New Mexico and holds 3 fitness certifications from the American Council on Exercise. Tony, along with his wife and 2 children, has followed a plant-based diet for many years, and he enjoys sharing information on the numerous benefits of plant-based eating. Members of his family also include their dog Otis, who is also on a plant-based diet, by the way, and Frodo the cat. And then joining Tony today is Juliana Coho, who is with us from the Ramah Navajo Natural Resources Department. Then we have Sergio DeBari. He's the owner of Sergio's Bakery and Cafe in Albuquerque. And we also have Monica Stevens, and she's the co-founder of Albuquerque Mutual Aid. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Tony, and look forward to getting us started and take us through today's presentation. It's all yours, Tony.
Thank you, Dorothy, and thank you again to everybody for joining us today. Thank you to our guests here. We're really excited to share this presentation with everyone. So before we dive into, some of the deeper conversation that we're going to have, I thought we would start out just with a really quick overview, take a minute or two for folks who might not be, super well versed with our program and kind of what this means. So I kind of thought we'd start off with just a minute or two of what is plant-based eating and why plant-based eating, just the what and the why. So, for those who don't know, plant-based eating, when we talk about it and refer to plant-based eating, we're meaning basically just omitting any animal-derived foods and ingredients. So that could include a long list, but just to give a few examples, beef, poultry, fish, dairy products like milk and cheese, eggs, honey, gelatin, and so forth. I included these pictures just to share, that this could look a lot of different ways. There are many different ways that people can choose to do this. Some folks like to focus on more whole foods. Some like to recreate traditional foods with plant-based ingredients and so forth. So just to give a little snapshot, you could do tamales, you could do homemade plant-based sushi, kind of anything in between, right? So that's just kind of a basic overview of what is plant-based eating. And then, talk a little bit about the why. So there's 3 kind of main reasons that a lot of people cite for switching to a plant-based diet, which are, the animals, the environment, and personal health. So, first and foremost for the animals, just off the bat, we're helping protect farmed animals from being raised for food or being exploited for food. But beyond, these farmed animals, which are intelligent, complex, highly social animals, that we know they feel the wide variety of emotions. In terms of switching to more plant-based foods, you can also help protect wildlife from being indiscriminately killed to protect livestock. So that's just kind of a basic overview. There's also, in terms of the environment, so switching to more plant-based or plant-based diets drastically reduces greenhouse gas emissions, deforestation, uses less water, less land, and also thus helps preserve wildlife habitats. Also for personal health, plant-based diets that focus on whole foods have been shown to help manage, prevent, and sometimes even reverse chronic conditions. Just speaking personally, from my personal experience, since switching to a plant-based diet, I've seen great improvements in my asthma, my seasonal allergies, which is a huge bonus, um, and some other health conditions, and also not to mention losing weight, which was a great side effect. So I like to add, those were kind of the three like most often cited reasons. There's two more that I think should be part of the conversation as well, to make it sort of a top five, which includes social justice and public health. So, in terms of choosing plant-based for social justice, factory farms, meatpacking plants, these are some of the most dangerous places to work. These industries often target undocumented folks and people who don't have the resources to be able to advocate for themselves. And they can also wreak havoc on the environment, places where they are located, which often impact communities of color, low-income communities. And so this is a big thing that I think we need to talk about a lot more. Additionally, in terms of public health, we're all experiencing right now this pandemic that is believed to be caused by zoonotic disease. And experts are telling us that the ways that we are raising animals for food on a massive scale in these factory farms, concentrated animal feeding operations, is really, it's like a ticking time bomb. We're just kind of asking for the next pandemic. So, and then, back to social justice in terms of access to food and increasing access to healthy, affordable food. So choosing plant-based foods and looking at how plant-based eating can be used to help increase access, help improve conditions and food insecurity. And so that's one of the main topics of our town hall today. So that was a quick overview of the why. And so I just wanted to also just give a brief introduction to our program, our plant-based eating program, which began October 2018, so still a relatively new program. Our goal to increase the availability of plant-based foods, basically wherever food is served or wherever people are eating. So we have a few different initiatives to meet that goal. One being engaging with restaurants, cafeterias, again, wherever food is served, to increase plant-based menu options and thus, make plant-based foods more accessible and make plant-based eating more just achievable for New Mexicans. And then also, offering education and other resources that can help people adopt plant-based diets or incorporate more plant-based foods into their diets. That could be anything, from cooking classes, grocery store tours, food tasting events, and so forth, and lots of other resources that I'll talk a little bit more about in just a minute. So for the first year and a half of the program, we were just kind of getting it off the ground from October 2018 to March 2020, back when we used to be able to gather in person and be joyful. We loved to do like these in-person nutrition courses, cooking classes, some hands-on cooking things, vegan picnics, where just people could come and try a variety of different plant-based foods and so forth. So just wanted to kind of share a couple pictures from the first year and a half of the program. And so speaking, we just want to share a little bit about our restaurant engagement. And so I'm going to invite, as Dorothy mentioned earlier, we have Sergio Dabari, who is the owner of Sergio's Bakery and Cafe, a locally owned and operated bakery and cafe here in Albuquerque. And so we were able to work with them to add some plant-based options to their menu. And so we just wanted to kind of share a little bit about that. So welcome, Sergio. Thank you so much for being with us.
Hey, Tony. Hello, everybody.
I wondered if we could just start out, just if you could tell us a little bit about the story and history of your bakery. I mean, I think it's an interesting story. The family owned and operated. So if you could just give us a little bit of background.
Yeah, absolutely. The bakery started originally, it was in Santa Fe. It started back in, the early to mid 40s. Full line bakery. And, of course, it changed ownerships over the years until back in 1980 when my dad and grandpa bought it. And, we were in Santa Fe for another 20 years. And then in 2000, we decided to relocate to Albuquerque because of just Santa Fe was changing, the economy was changing, and there was more business opportunity here, So we decided to come up here. Plus, all of us kids were going to college at the time, and I think my parents wanted to be closer to us. So I recently took it over about 6 years now. I've officially had it, and here we are. Been in business now at least 40 years, 41 years.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. Going back to the 40s. And so you've basically been baking your whole life, essentially.
Absolutely. Yeah, I grew up in the place, and it's what I love.
Yeah, definitely. So what made you decide to add vegan options?
You just have to go with the change. I've talked to a lot of people, including yourself, Tony, and I've gotten a lot of requests for it. And at first, it's kind of like, well, it's really not our thing, But the more I talk to people, the more I engage with people, and it seemed like there was something there, and I wanted to tap into that, and I think you coming to the bakery, you definitely, you kind of opened up my mind to something that I think is amazing, and I love doing it.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Yeah, that's cool. Thanks for sharing that. So, seemed like you're a little hesitant at first, like you said, it's not really our thing. Were you kind of unsure about like the quality of product that you might get?
Definitely, more than that, change in general, is a little bit scary, when you've been doing something for so long, and especially in, baked products where definitely you use a lot of eggs, milk, all these items. So you start thinking, well, how am I going to eliminate this from product, But as you start experimenting with things, it's not that bad, and it became easier, and you realize that a lot of these products were never really needed in the first place, especially in dough and things like that, So definitely, I was definitely hesitant at first, but I'm glad I did it,
Yeah, I think it's really interesting when you say, you're realizing that a lot of the ingredients actually weren't necessary. I mean, that's what I've experienced in my personal life. And I think it's just interesting how we've come to learn a certain way of preparing food. And then we kind of realize, maybe there's lots of other ways, basically,
Exactly, especially when you're dealing with, recipes such as ours that, I mean, they go back 50 plus years, back then there was no such thing as vegan, of vegan anything, or gluten-free, or any of these things that now are more, they're around a lot more than what they were back then, So definitely, even talking to my dad about it, for instance, he's like, well, what are you, crazy? What are you going to eliminate the eggs? But you realize that was a very old way of looking at things. Now with everything that's going on, I mean, I'm very open-minded, and I think it's great for business and for everything involved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And I, like you said, with the change is harder. Change could just be hard, and so and it can also be a generational thing. My parents were kind of the same way, and took them a while to kind of adapt to this idea.
Exactly. Yes.
Seems so foreign. And I think we kind of found out sort of by accident that the fruit pies just were vegan. I don't think you really needed to change up that recipe even at
No,
all.
I mean, yeah, that recipe's been vegan the whole time, and I never really realized until I started looking at the ingredients. The only thing I eliminated was we used to do like an egg wash on top, and I eliminated that, and they're beautiful and people love them, and I'm happy that I have this menu item to offer to people,
Mm-hmm.
and it goes great when you get a pizza and you get a pie and you're set, you have dinner and you have dessert.
For sure. Yeah. And now you kind of know by default, somebody walks in the bakery and what vegan options do you have? You kind of just know what you can offer them.
Exactly. Yeah.
Super cool. And so how have customers responded to, you said they love the pies. What about the pizza pies, the vegan cheese?
Oh yeah. I mean, they absolutely love it. There's even a joke that, oh, this can't be vegan cheese. It melts too nice, but it's awesome. And people really enjoy it. And I've gotten great feedback,
Yeah. Yeah. I remember the first time I brought one home, my kids were the same way. Like, are you sure they gave us the right one? It's like, if you
Oh
use
yeah,
that.
I've done that a few times, but it's a great cheese or a great supplement, I should say. But it's amazing, and it even smells good when it's in the oven baking. It's incredible,
Mhm. Um, Very cool. Any chance we're gonna see any more new vegan options from the bakery?
Absolutely. I'm working right now on a donut recipe. I know you guys have asked me several times about donuts, and I get a lot of customers asking about a vegan donut. So right now, that's number one on my list. But I do want to offer a cake, and I definitely would love to offer like a vegan version of a green chili cheeseburger, which is one of our number one sellers, and I think it'd be awesome to have that on the menu,
Mhm. Oh, that is so exciting and exactly what I was hoping you would say. The donuts and the cakes, and people are talking about that all the time. There's a couple other places in town, one in particular where you can get vegan donuts, and so it's really needed. Not that as much as donuts could be needed, but we need that. And
Oh, definitely.
I hear that
And
all
it's
the
just
time.
exciting. It's exciting for me. Like I love doing new things, and I love just I love people. I love people when they smile. I love making them smile. And if I could offer them a vegan everything, I would do it, and I'm definitely leaning towards I'm going to make as many products available as possible to the vegan community.
Hmm. That's really exciting. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, we definitely leave with a smile when we have our vegan goodies from there. So thank you so much, Sergio. Is there anything else that you wanted to share?
No, that's it right now. I'm glad I'm part of this, and thank you guys so much for inviting me, and it's been awesome for sure.
Cool. Thank you so much. Yeah. So every Friday you could get the vegan pizza from Sergio's. Sometimes they run the fruit pie special. And I think maybe you in the future you're working on making this more often than Fridays, right?
Yeah, I'm finishing up a remodel right now, so hopefully once that is done, we'll definitely I want to have pizza on the menu every day. And of course, we have our fruit pies every day as it is, but I want to expand our food menu to even into the evening hours, and I really want to make a name for us,
Yeah. Awesome. That's exciting. Yeah, we look forward to all of the future options and growth and everything that, the future for the bakery. So thanks again, Sergio. Appreciate you.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Tony.
Yeah. All right. So moving on, we shared a lot of what we were working on, pre-pandemic, and then, March 2020 we did have to, or, we made some pivots and looked at reallocating some of our resources. So some of the restaurant and cafeteria engagement, we kind of put on the back burner, just as restaurants were trying to figure out how to navigate. We shifted, our education and resources to all virtual and digital platforms. So in-person classes became webinars. We launched a podcast, which we launched last summer, and so we release new episodes every 2 weeks. The podcast sort of serves as like a how-to guide for somebody who wants to go vegan or, embark on a plant-based journey. So, but you're kind of not sure where to start. Sort of like a step-by-step what you can do. We've also been, providing cooking demonstration videos, amped up our blog posts and so forth. In addition, we started looking at how we could support people with food insecurity in communities who's, were experiencing food insecurity, and that was exacerbated by the pandemic for a lot of people. So we looked at, how can we use this program to help support folks. And so weekly, we provide fresh produce to ABQ Mutual Aid. We've also linked up with some community partners to provide monthly deliveries of produce and other plant-based grocery staples to the Ramah Navajo chapter. And we did some additional, one-time events and things where we were providing food and such to other individuals and groups. So I'm excited to, first, just a little bit about our digital and virtual resources. So like I mentioned, webinars, we do monthly webinars. A lot of them focus on food and cooking around different topics and themes. So, holiday cooking. We did one in October that was just pumpkin everything for people who like to put pumpkin in everything, such as myself. And just a wide variety of topics. Then we also have informational webinars such as where do I start? We did a myths versus facts, dissecting myths and facts about plant-based eating and so forth. This is just a snapshot of some of our podcast episodes. Like I said, every 2 weeks we release a new episode touching on all the different types of topics and things that you might barriers and things that might come up as you switch to a plant-based diet. And then our blog posts, we offer hopefully more information to support people on their journey. On the right here is our vegan dining guide, which has listings for restaurants across the state, throughout the state, that offer plant-based entrees. They're broken down by city, so you can look in your particular location. Or for people who kind of move around the state, for example, let's say you find yourself in Socorro for the day and you're wondering where can I eat in Socorro that has a plant-based option for me? You can just check out the dining guide and see where you can eat. So with that, I'm really excited to share a little bit about, our partnership with Mutual Aid, with ABQ Mutual Aid, and, hear more about their work. And so I'm really excited to bring on Monica Stevens. Monica is a loving mother and community organizer. She's one of the community members who launched ABQ Mutual Aid, which is a coalition of local organizations and individuals united to support community members during the COVID-19 emergency in New Mexico. Thank you, Monica. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Tony. So glad to be here in this space with you all.
Awesome. Can you start off just telling us a little bit about ABQ Mutual Aid, like how it started, what's your mission, and how do you do all that you do?
Yeah, so Albuquerque Mutual Aid, it's a community-wide effort. None of it could be doable or happen without the community. So there is a group of organizations such as Fight for Our Lives, Building Power for Black New Mexico, Save the Kids from Incarceration, Millions for Prisoners, that come together and coordinate the work that's happening, as well as the hookup now. And there's also individuals who aren't part of organizations, and there's so many different moving parts, and we're able to continue growing it together. It's a lot of moving parts that happen. So we have, people who care package the food, people who shop, at stores, people who deliver, people who get all in the background, getting everything ready to go for the next day, and people who text community members. So there's so many people involved in this community-wide effort. There's over 250 volunteers that share time with community to make this happen. And we can't also forget the thousands that share monetary donations as well. So people are sharing food from their gardens, buying extra food when they shop. We also have, Animal Protection of New Mexico. You all have been sharing, food with Albuquerque Mutual Aid by purchasing from La Acultura Network. So that provides veggies to over 100 families every week since the beginning of the pandemic. So it's a huge community-wide effort, and it wouldn't be possible without everyone sharing their gifts involved in this critical work. I will say the reason why we started is because we know 1 in 3 children go to bed hungry. 1 in 4 children go to bed hungry, and 1 in 5 adults go to bed hungry. That was before the pandemic. We know those numbers have increased. And so wanting to see what we could do as a community to support with accessing food.
Thanks for sharing all of that. And it's amazingly impressive. These numbers on the screen, these are what ABQ Mutual Aid has been able to accomplish since in literally, 1 year, basically over 12,000 families, just with the core group of people, like you said, 250-ish volunteers. I think this is amazing.
Yes, and what's nice is people are able to share time whenever they have to share time. So that's what's beautiful, is people get to be involved when their capacity allows them to be involved. So every week to week, people are able to get involved, and if their capacity changes, that's okay. And so people are able to get non-contact deliveries. It's in Albuquerque as well as surrounding communities. When people request a care package, they receive a care package. So there's no qualifications. If anyone requests one, they receive one, because we believe in solidarity, not charity. And people were able to communicate what their needs are.
Yeah, I think that's so beautiful, the solidarity, not charity. And so, in related to that, what plant-based options does mutual aid offer? And, in addition to the produce?
Yeah, potatoes, beans, rice. Sometimes we get gifted vegan mac and cheese, so that's always nice to get out. Lots of fruits. Fruits are really important. We were making sure, especially during the beginning of the pandemic, to really make sure to share oranges, because to boost the vitamin C. So we know that's critical. We also do almond milk. Almond milk, we were sharing with every single family that made a request, got almond milk. We also do a lot of support for our unsheltered community members as well, and also having vegan options for them. But yeah, so those are a few of the different options, as well as snacks, and making sure we have snacks that are vegan as well.
That's beautiful.
And community members, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Tony. Community members are able to share their dietary needs. So they're able to share if they're gluten-free, if they're vegetarian, if they're vegan. We do have a lot of people who are diabetic that often request care packages. So that's how we know what to put in a care package based off what people request.
That's amazing. Thank you. That's beautiful. I wanted to also ask too, just in your view, why is it important for mutual aid to offer these options? You mentioned the solidarity portion. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
I feel that it's important that people have the right to access food. And oftentimes being in a food desert, that can be challenging. And having a variety of options to support the variety of needs is so critical. So having plant-based options is important for community members. That's something that's important to us. We put on a lot of community events, and we also make sure that there's vegan options. That's important because as a community, different people have different eating habits. And so as a community, how are we ensuring that we're supporting one another and what those options are, like what Sergio did. I'm so excited to go to Sergio's bakery and cafe. I'm going to grab me a pizza, and I can grab pies anytime. So I'm so excited, but it's really great to have those options because we all eat differently. I have a lot of friends that are vegan, and I have a lot of friends that are gluten-free, and I'm wanting to always, when we're able to share a meal together, it's so powerful to like share food together. So being able to find restaurants or places or learn how to cook that is able to accommodate like our community members is important.
Yeah, thank you for sharing all of that. And you know, I also think it you know, I was gonna say something, but I think you worded everything perfectly. You know, I couldn't agree more. Just with how, you know, food brings people together, food brings community together. And if we have different values or different ways of eating or different, whatever the case may be, we can all still gather in community. Monica, I also know that you are plant-based, and I was wondering if you wouldn't mind sharing just a little bit about why you've changed your diet, why you've adopted a plant-based diet.
Yeah, and you shared a lot of it in the beginning. You know,
Okay.
you talked about the environmental impacts. You also talked about like healthy eating and energy. And so I think about when I first started to eat differently, I learned that one of the number one killers of African women is heart disease, and then of African and indigenous women. And now it's women in general, right? And as a single mom, like what can I do that I can support my health, and how can I also, and my son eats very differently, so I had to also learn how to adjust to cook for him too. He doesn't eat too much meat, and so learning what can I do to support my health. And then also I believe food is medicine. And so I believe our bodies are also our temples, and how are we taking care of our temples, and what are we seeing, what goes in our bodies. And unfortunately, because of the food industry, there's so many toxins being pumped into our foods, and those are coming, not only are those harming animals, they're harming us as a people. So like that colonized diet was not natural to us, and so it's created more challenges of like diabetes and other things in our communities. And so learning about veganism from like elders, I have elders who've been vegan for many, many years, like over 30 years, that have been able to like share with me, you know, like what to cook, what to eat, as well as with my son. So it's been a tremendous change and like impact on my family as well. Even during holidays, they're like, what can you eat? What can't you eat? And so my family's always, as well as friends, making sure that there's those options. And like we do that naturally now. So yeah. And I just want to also say, there's a lot of you in the webinar. And so anything that you've ever done, if you've gifted mutual aid, if during the pandemic you shared something with a friend, you were there, you know, mentally for a friend, all of that is mutual, right? All that is mutual aid. And so just thank you all, because I know the pandemic has not been easy for any of us. And there's been hardships for many people, and how we create communities of care is so critical. And that's what mutual aid is all about.
Thank you so much, Monica. Thank you for sharing all of that. Is there anything else that you wanted to share?
No, I think that sums it up. Thank you, Tony, for sharing space.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And yeah, we might get some questions towards the end. So thank you for sticking around. All right. So additionally, you know, we wanted to just share a little bit about our partnership with the Ramah Navajo chapter. And so, as I mentioned before, you know, we partnered with MoGro Mobile Grocery to provide monthly deliveries to excuse me, to the chapter. Sometimes they even come to Albuquerque to pick it up. And so there's been a lot of moving parts, but this has been a beautiful partnership in a lot of ways. And so I wanted to welcome our third guest, Juliana Coho. She is the supply leader for the Ramah Navajo Emergency Command Center and office manager for the Ramah Navajo Chapter Natural Resource Department. Juliana is a lifelong resident of Ramah Navajo, working for the Ramah Navajo chapter since 2002. The Ramah Emergency Command Center was established in March 2020 in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, and is made up of volunteers from the Ramah Navajo Chapter Office of Grants and Contracts and the Ramah Navajo School Board, Inc. The team has been responsible for obtaining and distributing food and essential supplies for the Ramah Navajo community throughout the pandemic. Welcome, Juliana. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for inviting us to be part of this panel. Us here in Ramah Navajo, we're a satellite reservation of the larger Navajo Nation reservation. The other two satellite communities are Tuahajile and Alamo. The unique thing about Ramah Navajo is we have services, contracts with the Bureau of Indian Affairs to provide direct services to the Ramah Navajo chapter, which include with our organization, natural resources, law enforcement detention center, community planning and support services for our programs. And then with the Ramah Navajo School Board, which is a K through 12 program, and they have supporting programs as the Pine Hill Health Center, facilities management, social services, behavioral health. And so we're unique in that way from Navajo Nation, is that we provide direct services just for Ramah Navajo chapter, and which through this pandemic has allowed us to build partnerships with existing partners and with meeting new collaborators in getting assistance for our community throughout the pandemic.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, so just if you could just share a little bit about, how the Ramah Navajo community has been impacted by the pandemic and just how you've been able to meet the needs of the community. I mean, this is such a huge undertaking, and you've just done incredible work. So if you could just share a little bit of that.
Yeah, our community through the Pine Hill Health Center programs, they kind of started providing some services in February 2020. The clinic administrator was keeping an eye on the situation with the pandemic as it was evolving. So kind of got ahead a little bit in servicing some of our elders and people who are homebound due to health issues. March 13th is when the Navajo Nation did the shutdown order that sent everybody home, and the stay-at-home order went into effect. That is when the command center was established between our two organizations to provide services to the Ramah Navajo community. At that time, we were doing only home deliveries. Particularly, we thought we would have some time before we actually started having COVID cases, but we actually started getting our first COVID cases that week of March 13th that were directly contact traced to the gathering on Arizona on the Navajo Nation that actually started the COVID cases for the Navajo Nation. So it was relatively quick that we had people sick in our community. We were doing home deliveries, as they said, and we were averaging about 1,000 home deliveries a month for those first 3 or 4 months of the pandemic. Not only with the shutdown orders, Gallup actually got shut down, which is one of the main border towns that supply our community with supplies. Other areas was that other things we were running into is when people would get to town, even if it be Grants or Albuquerque, everything was already gone by the time we got there. So it was really a dire situation on providing food and just essential supplies like toilet paper, hand sanitizer, all of those things that we needed to provide for our community. And so we did that. Like I said, for the first 4 months, we were doing contactless at home deliveries. And that's when our department had been working with Animal Planet Protection in New Mexico with our horse management program, trying to develop other avenues, through PCP and gelding clinics and, rather than roundup and sales for the removal of the horses. And that's how we came in contact with you, Tony, was through Lori Bonner. And that's how we started our partnership with you and through Mogro and started getting monthly deliveries. One of the things that we thought was important to provide, not just providing food, but providing good food for the community. Because you had to have a healthy diet in order to have a healthy immune system. And as you know, a lot of the stuff that was coming in initially at first was a lot of processed stuff, dry goods stuff that could have long shelf life. but we still needed to supplement our community members with fresh food and with healthy food, organic food. Because as was mentioned before, food is community, and we have a lot of multi-generational homes, and they were spending a lot of time at home, and the family meals were becoming more, were even more important, in the stressful time of the stay-at-home orders.
Yeah.
So that's what we've been doing. And we think through the ability through our partners, such as with yours, is we were able to keep our pandemic numbers down compared to the rest of the Navajo reservations. These are just rough numbers that I got from a community meeting today. I think we had a total of 306 cases. Of those, 300 recovered, and we had 6 deaths in the community. Our pre-pandemic population was estimated to be about 3,500. As of today, the last report that came in, about 2,700 people have been vaccinated through our Pine Hill Health Center. And we provide vaccines not just to Ramah Navajo community members, but also to non-Ramah Navajo community members, because we have a partnership with New Mexico Department of Health through the Ramah Navajo School Board. So, we're really pushing vaccinations, and we have opened up. We're still doing monthly drive-through deliveries, which you guys are helping us with. We have one scheduled for next week, and then at the end of June. And at that time, we'll reassess where we're at, but our numbers have gone down. We currently have no positive cases. The last positive cases we had was about 3 weeks ago. But since then, we haven't had any more.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. And, it's just, I love to be able to hear you share, your story and the stories of the community members. And, I couldn't agree more with, we need to provide good food for people. It's not enough to just get food to people, but what are we giving them? So, that's one of the ways we've strived to provide quality food, organic food. It's not just, plant-based things, but, take it a step further and also make it meaningful to the community as well. So, we've also worked to see, what is the community, what could you really use? And because, as people are staying home, those family meals are becoming more important. So we've been looking at, including some tamales in there, some, blue cornmeal, some chicos and things like that,
Yeah, they really look forward to our drive-throughs at the end of the month, because it has that variety and those things, like I said, that we weren't normally getting through other donations. The tamales everybody loves the tamales out here. But that variety of things, like you guys just got us that delivery yesterday, and we were able to get homes out to over 250 food out to over 250 families. And we advertised it as fresh produce only, and we were still able to have that many families come through our drive-through yesterday to get that food. So like I said, it's really important, and we've been pushing, we're looking, one of the things that through this pandemic, and we were already looking at to begin for as a community, is self-sustainability and creating our own food cycle sources here locally, so that in the future, we can have a local source for our food. Because like I said, we're a remote location. The nearest grocery stores are 1 to 2 hours away. There's a few C stores in the area or trading posts, but other than that, that's it. And our Navajo community is 3,500 people with 900 families, not including the non-Navajo, because we're a checkered board reservation. So we have non-Navajo communities within our reservation boundaries that are also part of this community.
Yeah. Thank you again for sharing all of that. And just, hearing, those of us living in Albuquerque or in, Santa Fe or these areas, we take for granted, even in Gallup, that, we are complaining that we have to stand in line forever, but we were the ones who wiped out the grocery store before the people from the remote locations could get there, right? So yeah, lots of layers to it, and I love that you know, you're able to work on your own food sources, and
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, currently Randy's program through the Pine Hill Center for Health Promotions, they're actually doing plowing to help people plant, and they've been overwhelmed with the number. We didn't, this was a service both of our departments used to do before the pandemic, and last year we were unable to do it because of the stay-at-home orders. So he's been plowing, I think, nonstop every day for like the last 3 weeks, helping
Wow.
people get planted. We have seeds. His program has also been able to get seedlings to hand out to people. So we were able to do that last year during the pandemic, providing donated seeds or donated plants out. And one of the things we noticed when we were doing our home deliveries through the summer months is a lot of people had planted it in the housing areas within their own little yard and started their gardens in their own little yards, which was really nice to see. And hopefully we can keep that going for our community so that you can be able to have your own garden and be able to provide food for your family.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And I look forward to, you know, continuing our partnership in ways that we can support that moving forward, you know, and when we're not in crisis mode, how we're just nourishing healthy community. So thank you so much, Juliana, for all of that and for sharing your time and storage. Was there anything else that you wanted to share?
No, I think that that covers it. It's been a rough year, but we're coming out of it. And we've built great partnerships with your group and other groups that we, like you said, we hope to continue in the future and help improve the situation out here in Ramah. Because pre-pandemic we were already at 60% unemployment. And of course, as we come out of this, we'll find out more and more what the effect was on Ramah, Navajo, and plus the whole, the country as a whole for at-risk communities.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much again, Juliana. So that sort of concludes our presentation. We do want to take the last 9 minutes to answer any questions that folks have. So if you have any questions that weren't answered throughout the presentation, we would love to take the next couple of minutes to answer them. I do see one question in the Q&A that says, how can I get a balanced, healthy vegan menu for dogs and cats? Beautiful question. So there are a couple resources. I can't think of them off the top of my head, but I'm happy to, maybe I can add them in the chat before we get off, or we can add them to a follow-up email. The resource that I use for our dog Otis is Veg Dog, which they make supplements for dogs. And on their website, they have recipes to make homemade food. And so we make his food at home and then add the Veg Dog supplements. There's also some great books you can purchase. And I'm also happy to share, though, we have an interview coming up on our podcast, on our Teach Me How to Vegan podcast, with an expert in plant-based nutrition for dogs and cats. So happy to share that in the future. So that's really going to be the wealth of information for how to feed dogs and cats. There's also some commercial brands, I guess that's the name, some like kibble you can buy that's vegan. So we have that on hand for emergencies or treats. There's Halo brand, and then there's I can't think of the other brand off the top of my head that make vegan dog food that's kibble. So hopefully that was helpful, and I'm happy to reach out and share some more resources. Another question, once it's safe to do so, is it possible to arrange for cooking demos on site for food insecure communities? Absolutely. We would love to resume those in-person programs and classes and things like that. I think it's great to do classes that revolve around cooking with foods that grow locally, how to cook different foods that people may not be familiar with, especially foods that grow, naturally are in the wild. We have cactus everywhere. And, you know, how can we utilize that or some of the foods that grow naturally? So absolutely, you know, you can reach out to me at any point, and I'd love to arrange that in the future. And it looks like all the other questions that were asked have already been answered.
Well,
Oh,
it looks like unless there are any other questions coming up, I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank Tony, Sergio, Monica, and Juliana for being here today and for sharing such incredibly moving and valuable and interesting information with us today. This is really wonderful to see what working together can come to, and you know how it results in people actually having something to eat, and having healthy foods. So I wanted to, just from my own personal heart, thank you guys for being here, and I wanted to thank our audience for being interested in this topic and for being with us today. You can reach out to us, as Tony said, if you have any questions that maybe you can think of afterwards. Please reach out, and then we'll make sure we get you an answer. We've also recorded this session, and we'll make the recording available to the participants and anybody who registered and wasn't able to attend. So we'll be sending that out in an email probably on Monday. So thank you, community partners. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, everybody, for being with us, for taking the time, and have a great evening.